Welcome to KYNDversations, a space for sacred dialogue, honest reflection, and deep listening. I'm your host, KYNDversation. KYNDversations was born from my own inner dialogue, my journey of spirituality through life's unfoldings, questions, and becoming. Along the way, I discovered something essential, that transformation often happens not in isolation, but in conversation. In this podcast, I sit with people from diverse faith traditions, spiritual paths, and lived experiences to explore one central question. What does devotion mean to you? And how does your relationship to the sacred shape your life? My hope is that each conversation becomes a light post for those who feel challenged, disconnected, or searching for belonging. And that through our shared reflection, you might find courage, clarity, and deeper connection to yourself. Wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. Welcome to KYNDversations, where conversation is a sacred practice. Here, diverse voices across faiths and fields share the stories and wisdoms shaping who they are and who they are becoming. I'm your host, Kendra, and that's Kendra with a Y. Let's have a KYNDversation. Today's guest is Oyabunmi De Rosario. Oyabunmi is a mother of four, two of whom are professional athletes. She is a priestess, diviner, guide, and transformation maven. Having raised family within the world of professional sport, she brings a rare understanding of performance, resilience, devotion, and the body's extraordinary wisdom. Rooted in exercise science and yoga, her work weaves embodied wisdom, spiritual insight, and sacred luxury. Through priestess readings, bespoke rituals, the vibrantly transformed reset, and self-holiday retreat, and astrology wealth indicator readings, Oyabunmi creates exquisite spaces for people to return to themselves, embody their deepest truth, and cultivate lives rich in vitality, pleasure, alignment, and abundance. Let's welcome Oyabunmi. Welcome.
Thank you. Greetings.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for saying yes to being in KYNDversation with me today, Oyabunmi.
Thank you for asking me and inviting me into KYNDversation.
Absolutely. So how are you arriving today? What's going on?
I'm arriving fully present in my body. All is well. I'm coming off of spending some wonderful time with two of my children. So I'm currently traveling. So all is well. I had an adjustment from the chiropractor. So my body is well. And I just give thanks, for my health and strength and for my connection to lovely people like yourself who have a platform and see me as someone with something to say in KYNDversation. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you are well adjusted after your chiropractic session. We all need some of that. So my first question is because you show up in the world, because I know you personally, over the past few years, you show up in the world absolutely vibrantly. And I know when people see you, they see the priestess, they see the diviner, they see the spiritual guide. Talk to me about and this is a big question, so you can answer wherever you get inspired to answer. Talk to me about some of the things that you've had to let go of to live into the iteration of you that you are in this season.
Ooh, okay. Just going in. Okay, wow. I mean, this concept of letting go, is huge, because what I know today is that the body has to have the capacity to hold whatever it is that you say that you value and that you want. And so as a result of that, if you tune in, then things start to fall to the wayside. what are things that I've had to give up, let go of, is my identity, who I thought I was, who I was allowing myself to be in certain spaces and not be in certain spaces. I have had to let go from a very early age, really being a concern for what other people think about what it is that I'm doing. I, went into public school with tribal markings on my face. So it was like, this is not something that I could hide or cover up, or with makeup or anything like that. So I had to release caring, what people thought about my appearance, my markings, how my mother looked when she came up to the school in her African clothing, um, the decisions that I've made in trying to stay true to myself and not allowing other people to define me, is something that I have to continually let go of. Friendships, people who don't have the capacity to hold my energy without feeling like they need to compete with me or try to be destructive or pull. So it's so many things. Being a daughter of the Orisha Oya, transformation is huge. And so I feel like I'm constantly shedding my identity, and I'm constantly willing to shed my identity to continue to unfold into who it is that I'm supposed to become. Because I don't know that, we arrive, at this place. It's just a constant peeling back of layers. And so killing parts of myself, has been necessary, be it writing letters that I might never send, or writing letters and burning it in a fire, or flushing it down the toilet, or whatever. Just, I am just and have been committed, to my inner work. And sometimes that could be isolating, and the letting go. I feel like for myself personally, that there was a period, that preceded where I am now, where I was willing to walk away from everything, every single thing, every comfort, everything, just down to bare bones, like literally was where I took myself. Was it necessary? I don't know. But it was like, I know that there is a version of me that has yet to awaken. And if I continue in this way, like she could never be, So the letting go, I don't even know that it ends, because it's just, and it's the willingness. Sometimes we stay stuck and we see other people, get stuck, like, and we can say, oh yeah. And then it's like committing to not following that, It could be super easy. Like if we pattern ourselves after the people that are around us, it's like we have to let go of standing out and looking different. And being different and being ostracized and just being like, yeah, it's Thanksgiving and no, I don't want any meat, like what? You're not eating,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and I'm gonna stand on that, that's where I am. Oh, she don't eat no meat, it's like that. It's like, okay, yeah. So just really, releasing. In one of my journeys, my yoga journey, which really impacted me so much, especially because I grew up, in traditional African spirituality. But one of the things that it gave to me and taught me was not being a concern for looking good, you know, because you don't have to be perfect. So I'm going to color outside of the lines. I'm going to show up. Sometimes it might be messy, you know, because I'm not trying to perfect it for you, you know. It's like I'm not a concern for that. And that right there is just letting go moment to
Yeah,
moment, you making the decision. So
absolutely.
that letting go piece runs so deep for me. I love that, you know, you open with that because it's the holding on. I think that you know, it can be detrimental to your health, your physical body, your psyche. I always like to say that I love like this with my hands open, not
Mm,
like this, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
because what's meant for me is gonna, it won't miss me, but my hands are open to receive, you
Mm,
know, and I'm not holding on so desperately to what I have that I can't even see that there's something better right there because I'm just so, you know, so that's the thing. It's just letting go of even the expectation that people are going to show up the way that you think that they will or you
mm,
want them to. It's just allowing others to be and let be. You know what I mean? And like when people show you who they are, then we believe them and we say, okay, you know, I'm going to just let that be. Can I come into a space and be? And if I can't come into the space and be, then like that's, I'm gonna let go of said spaces.
yes.
Whoever is hosting those containers, I gotta let that go because yeah, I'm
No,
willing to do that.
I love it. If you could see how my internal body is like super
Yeah.
excited to hear your response right now, because you have dropped so much insight and wisdom from that one question that I can just eat from. The first thing that you named is this thing about identity. And
Yeah.
what I picked up from what you share is that our identity shifts and evolves if we allow it
If
to.
we allow it.
If
Yeah.
we allow it to. One of the things that you mentioned, which is something that you also wrote on Threads earlier this week, is about the tribal markings and how the
Mhm.
tribal markings are a reflection of your identity in terms of growing up in African traditional religious practices. Talk to me about your journey of spirituality, growing up in that context in the historical Oyatunji village in South Carolina.
So what I would say about that is that I feel like I came from a family, you know, of I would say people who were into, you know, what would be considered alternative, you know, spiritual practice. When I was growing up and I spent time with my grandmother was a member of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. So my Sunday school, when I was with my grandmother, was going there and learning the teachings of the Prophet Noble Ali and just learning about that. They had an emphasis on health as well because they didn't eat meat. And, you know, so that I got that, you know, from there. And my mother, coming out of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, went through a journey into Rastafarianism, which led her into deeper spiritual inquiry, which then led her to traditional African religion. And then me, then of course, you know, inheriting all of those influences. So for myself, I have an interesting story, and there are other people like me from my community that became priests and priestesses at a young age because that's just what they were doing. And sometimes it could have been through divination, you know, when the children are taken to the Fodivifa to find out, you know, what it is that they have come here to do, who they're to be. And sometimes along the way, it may say this person is destined to be a priest or a priestess. And the specific Orisha divinity that is ruling this person requires that they begin the journey at a young age. So For myself personally, it was something along those lines because it happened for me at a young age. It wasn't something that I requested or sought out. It was by a divination that was done for the community that spoke about the Orisha Oya wanting an initiate.
Mm.
And so that person that was a child, a daughter of Oya, happened to be me. So then that maybe moved things along, at a different pace. So at a very young age, I was initiated into, the mysteries, of the pantheon of Yoruba divinities with the Orisha Oya, and then growing up in a community that was focused on, being custodians of the customs and traditions of the ancestors. I learned a lot of practices, being in that community as far as tending to sacred space, tending to shrines, understanding how to revere, that, and then gradually understanding how that all related to me, as a person, individually, as a young girl, when we hear about the stories of Orisha and we hear, about their time when they were on earth and how they were and what was the character, of the Orisha. And these were the things, that, we wanted to embody, some of these things, although maybe not even really being able to relate to it at a young age, I'm like, okay, oh yeah, it's like this fierce, goddess, takes no BS. And then learning that there are different aspects to the goddess, So yes, she is a warrior,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, she was also the queen of Shango and went into battle with him and had so many things that she was doing, that drew so much attention to her, and how it was that she navigated, learning who is Oya in nature. It's like, who is the Orisha outside of me? Who is the Orisha, the element, and then who is it in me? Like, how can I
Mm.
connect to it? Because it's not just outside of me. And that's one thing, in religions where we have shrines and altars and things like that. And even with church, it's like church is like an altar, but
Mm-hmm.
like you don't need to be there to access, you know, the energy or the aspect of God, that you are trying to seek. So
Yes.
I feel like there was a lot for me to learn as far as that, because what I learned and what I would say is that, what I know, religion is a set of practices, right? It's just a set of behaviors. And so then embodying that, like owning that, like what is that? How do I do that? How do I distinguish, the divinity of the Orisha that's in the vessel and the shrine, and like just me walking around being a living representation. So that's been an ongoing journey, because when I was young, yes, I had my own shrines. I learned how to chant and pray and speak, Yoruba, what instruments to use to call the different Orisha, what were the rituals, what were the processes. Like I saw all of that, you know, all the time. So it's behaviors that I adapted because I saw it, repetitively in that way. And then, say, leaving the community, going away to college, and like, now being like a young woman as a priestess, and like, what is that, taking my shrine to my dorm room. And
Wow.
it's like, like having to tell
Wow.
people what that is, even though when I'm walking around, like, you don't know that about me. It's not something that I lead with. When I moved out of the village community and, integrated, going to like regular school and everything like that, it wasn't like, yeah, I don't lead. I never led with that. To this day, I still don't lead with that because it's a part of my identity, but it's not like the totality. And I want to connect around other things, you know? And for me, it could be, yeah, I grew up with it. So it's just like not a big deal. Whereas other people are like so interested and they want to know more and learn about your journey. So I didn't even realize like, oh, wow, like it's a thing, you know, to talk about how it is
Yeah.
that you start embodying. And I'm big on embodiment and I'll be using that word a lot because I'm super big on that. But embodying, you know, Orisha, what it is to be a priestess. And I feel like for me, it went through and has gone through a lot of different phases, especially, you know, being young and having it given to me, you know, and then taking it and saying, okay, because when I left home, I could have very well explored other faiths. That's what most people typically do. If you grew up in the church and you go away to school and you start hearing other things, other people are coming from different worlds, you know, and it's like, oh, you start to challenge, you know, what you've been taught or say, well, I know we've been in the church for generations, but like this seems super interesting to me. So like I want to know what that is. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things I kind of I went through that, but I went through it still within the context of, you know, the religion that I was in. My journey, say through yoga, believe it or not, really brought me into for real embodying this concept that, you know, yeah, obviously I was a priestess before I know that I have Ashe, like I know these things, but it was through yoga. It was also through, you know, the Osiris Set Society that we were introduced to breathing and chanting words of power mentally to access the divinity within. And so in my yoga journey, I feel like I learned more about embodying my spirituality versus it being a set of practices that I did. You know, if that kind of makes sense. It's like if I can bring myself through my breath work into a state of trance, then I can embody, really, really connect, you know, with the energy. I'm very big into the body and how it lands, how things land and how we process things in the body. So I just feel like, you know, it's been like a gradual, you know, if it's coming from God down in your head, you know, over the years, it's just slowly filling me up, you know, all the way down with all of these different ways to understand. It's like, oh, what I understood, you know, when I was 9 is not my understanding that I have now. The way that I might look at the destiny reading that I received at that age, now I can look at it in a totally different lens because I've lived life and I understand like, oh, this is what this was talking about. And I understand how this goddess that we have heard so much about and all of her different manifestations, how actually, yeah, yeah, you know, I own all of that, the destructiveness, you know, and, you know, the queenship. I'm going to own all of that because those are all aspects. I've definitely had to be destructive, you know, burning things down and getting rid of things like you asked about letting go. That's it, you know, transformation through the fire sometimes, you know. So, so yeah, it's just been again this ongoing journey of embracing it for myself. If you have a, you know, a lot of us come from praying mothers and praying grandmothers. Them prayers can hold you until you in your 30s, honey, and you then you're like, okay, I got to start praying for myself, or I want to have my own family. I need to be able to pray for that, you know. So it's just like as my life evolved and expanded, then my understanding needed to expand, and I feel blessed that I expanded within the context of what I was given, my priesthood, the spirituality that I was given. And then I feel like the other things I just enhanced it, you know, with other knowledge. As my grandmother, she's like, man must study all religions. That was something that she always said. So I never condemn another's faith. I always want to understand other people's understanding of God and the concept
Mm-hmm.
of God, and even this recently, I've been like, oh, I came to understand that with my friends that are Christians, that this concept of Christ or Christhood is a state of being.
Mm-hmm.
It's a state of being. It's not like over there,
Yeah.
up there. It's not
Yeah.
held there.
For
It's
your
a
friends that are diverse in their Christian theological understanding. Yes.
so it's so interesting. I just, it's so interesting, and I am committed to staying open because I feel like we need to be at least able to sit down and talk and be tolerant. And we can't limit the Most High, to one thing, or giving full
Yes.
understanding to one set of people, or one book, one doctrine. It's like if we go and look in nature, we see how diverse that's expression of God. So how are we going to just streamline, the Most High like that?
I'm with you 1,000%. I really believe, as someone who identifies as a Christian pluralist, as an interspiritualist, and an EFI practitioner, I understand. For me, and I was talking to the guest that I had on last week, Dr. Fearon, that I believe building the kingdom of heaven here on earth is about us being in conversation and having an opportunity to understand each other's belief systems and why you think the way you do and how you were informed by the beliefs that you have and the core values that you've established. I think that is what helps the world be a better place. And so what I love about African traditional religious practice in general is that it offers you a roadmap from wherever you start on how to align with your highest destiny.
Yeah.
And what I am curious about for you, you had that early on at 9. You came into the priesthood at 9. For me, I didn't get ordained until I was in my early 30s, and I didn't get my destiny reading until I was 39.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, for you at 9, what were some of the things that you had to contend with in terms of being in a very African-centered insular culture in South Carolina, and then transitioning outside of that culture once you went off to college or once you went to high school? I don't know how old you were when you transitioned, but how did you deal with that, Oyabunmi?
Again, I feel like the time that I was there, living in that community with so many others like myself, other children, that had the markings that I had. I really had a sense of pride, about who I was and where I was coming from. I didn't necessarily need to lead with it, but I was very proud, of it. It wasn't like you could call me whatever you wanted to, like if you wanted to call me African booty scratcher, but like when I go back to my community, like I'm, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea. Like you have no idea. So that was just like, it gave me a sense of pride, and also I didn't really feel like I needed to explain. It's like, people are like, oh, African booty scratcher. Okay, great. Whatever. You think is funny. What happened to your face? I got stranded on an island and a tiger scratched me. And they were like, oh my God. Next thing you know, kids are crowding around me. I'm like, yo, okay. And that's more believable than me saying, oh, I came from a community and these are tribal marks. Like that was a better sell. So
wow.
So I ran with it for a little while. It for a little while, because they believed it was fine. They got them to stop teasing me or whatever. My mom comes up to the school in her African clothes, and then they're like, your mama got on the bed sheets. She's wearing the curtains, all of this kind of thing. But I knew that we were royalty,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
So it was fine. And my family, because when I came out of the community, I was with my grandmother. And when I went to regular school and that, it was because my grandma worked at the school. So, so, you know, yeah, people would still tease me, but then I just, you know, I got taken out of the regular classes and I got put in an honors English class. And that was when I started meeting like the other kids, you know. And so then they became like, they were totally accepting. They didn't feel like they needed to make fun of me because they were all quirky as well. And they just thought it was super interesting. And so, yeah, then I just kind of found, you know, my people. But that part of my life, you know, I just always kept it secret unless they came to my house. If they came to my house, different thing. They're seeing all kinds of shrines and stuff everywhere. And people have a lot of questions. It's fine, but it's like, yeah, it's a part of what we do. Oh, it's African arts, you know, whatever. I began to get very clever and keeping it light, you know.
Wow.
Keeping it light so as not to scare people. So that, you know, that was like, you know, a thing. And then it's like, if you really sit down and talk to me and you really want to talk about it, then I'm probably going to say some very interesting things that's going to be different. I grew up in a polygamous family, like, you know, polytheism, like all these different things. Like there's so many things, but all I know is that what I learned from my grandmother, because as I shared, she used to go to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And then when she wasn't able to anymore, she went to the church. There was a church right around the corner from us. And my grandmother liked to sing and she played the keyboard. So she was like, I'm going to somebody's house of God. And she would go and they embraced her so much, you know, just so beautifully. When she lost her eyesight and everything, like the community would come and get her, bring her to church. She was able to sing and do all that stuff. So that to me was like, grandma was like, look, I'm going to get it where I can get it. And if it's around the street at the church, then I'm going to go sing at the church because I'm going to go give my praises. And I just love that. And I learned that from her, is just really to be open, you know, about how it is and where it is that you get to access, you know, the Most High or come into communion with that. So, yeah.
I love that you have such a rich interspiritual framework, from Moorish science to Rastafarianism to Ifa, to even Christianity to an extent. And I am really grateful just for that lens, because I think when you are able to have access to those early touch points, you're able to be more spacious with people's ideologies in a way that people who have not been aren't. I know for me, as someone who is interspiritual, there were a lot of misconceptions that I grew up hearing in turn about people who practice African traditional religions. One of them was that the ancestors are demonic and those people worship the ancestors, but that is a misconception. Can you talk to me about your relationship with the ancestors?
Man, I feel like I have a growing relationship through my mediumship with the ancestors. So in my family, I have a very interesting thing because I'm not the first Orisha priest in my lineage. Actually, my great-grandfather was a priest of Obatala from St. John. And my great-grandmother, so my great-grandfather was a merchant seaman, and he met my great-grandmother, Anna, in Spain. She was from Spain. And if you ever read the works by Allan Kardec, you will know that in Europe, they had this Spiritism era movement where mediums in that would get together and sit and have what we call misas.
Yes.
Or, you know, I guess they said seances. There are all these different words. But basically what it was people who had spiritual sight would get together to commune with spirit. So my great grandmother Anna was one of those. She was an espiritista, and then she connected with my great grandfather, and then they came to Puerto Rico, which is where my grandma was born. And so from there, in that line, I then was the next person that became a priest and picked it back up. So it skipped like two generations, and then now we have more priests in the line because now I'm a priestess. My daughter, my cousin got initiated. My cousin is a priestess at Yemonja. So yeah, so it's like um, so my connection with the ancestors is super fascinating. One thing that I'm also going to say right here is that my great grandmother, who was from Spain, her last name was Rosario, and the name that I have is Rosario. I have her name back. So, and that right there is deep. Okay.
That is very deep.
Yes. So
Man.
my connection with the ancestors is alive and well. I had the unique, of course, opportunity in growing up in the community that I did, experiencing Egungun, which is veneration of the ancestors or dancing of the avatar of the ancestors. So I grew up with Egungun, and then having, ancestral altar, in our home, recognizing the deceased members of our family, those friends that were close, my mother would have on her altar. And that when I started my own family, I wanted to make sure that I had a representation of the ancestors in the house and doing things, understanding that doing things for them, giving them things, be it just fresh water and prayer, be it flowers, the same thing that people go to a grave and do. We just do it in the house. It's the same thing, So, um, so it's just, keeping their memory and just who they were and what they gave to us when they were here on earth, all that they did, just honoring them in that way. And in the same way that I would love for my children to honor me, when I pass on. And I just love one of the movies that I share with my kids. There's this Spanish movie. It's called Coco. And
I was literally just in my mind.
So so like I want to be on the ofrenda. Do not leave me off. Like, and so they need to know what that is, so that they can keep it alive. So I think that I very much believe in us being, our ancestors' wildest dreams. I very much believe in taking it, whatever was the vision my grandmother saw for me, whatever she saw in me, just making sure that I just carry that forward for all the things that she couldn't do, that my mom couldn't do, that I can do, that my daughter can do. Just understanding that. I have done, I did the self-empowerment intensive, and that was healing, generations of ancestral trauma in my bloodline. So now I'm a medium. I participate, in misas and that, and I can hear and feel, things, and that is something. This is like a new, I would say like within the past maybe like 2-3 years, it's been expanding, but like now it's just I'm just learning to trust myself more in what it is that I be hearing and feeling, and not intellectualize it, and just allow. So me taking care of myself and being about wellness and this and that is because I want to be, a vessel for spirit. If I'm carrying this goddess, I'm carrying, the blood of my ancestors and that, then I want to make sure that I keep the vehicle that I've been given in a way that they can access me, and I could do something. If it's give a message, if it's, whatever that is, if I could light somebody else from the light that I have from them, then
Yes.
It doesn't diminish me none, but it's just everybody that I come in contact with, like I want to light them up in some type of way. Like walk away from me with your candle lit. Like if it was a conversation, if it was something that I said, and again, I'm just beginning to understand, at my big old age, that this is a thing and that I have that power, and I need to trust myself more, because if not, then what the heck have I been doing? What was it all for? If I can't even trust myself. And then too, it's like we say we have faith, we say we have faith, we say we have faith, but then it's like, do we have faith? So that's always a thing. I'm always looking deeper, trying to get to a deeper truth within myself, get to a deeper level of embodiment so I can hold more. Spirit can fill me up more because it knows that I have the capacity, to hold more, and I'm not going to crumble, so it's just trying to expand myself, with spirit, working with the ancestors, and just, again, communicating in new ways. It's like now understanding that if I'm connected, then even the things that I desire, are divine.
Yes.
Like, if it's not, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but it's like, yeah, if I'm being the best that I can be, then the things that I desire, even those things there's substance, there, and leaning more into that. That to me is like all of this is just leading to more trust in self, because if we're made in the image and
talk about it,
the spirits put all this on us, then we have to. And this is something I got this, I've expanded that creation is complete already, So
say that again. Say that one more time.
Creation is complete already, right? When they say there's nothing new under the sun, because creation is complete, right? So that's how we can access destiny, because it's complete. If it was like it's unfolding as we arrive to it, but it is complete. If I say that it is complete, he is saying all the things, and even in the Christians, like creation is complete, it's done already. So therefore, everything, desire, is divine, in fact. And you're not hurting anybody or wishing, anything negative. I'm not saying, when I talk about desire, I'm not talking about that, but desire for good health, desire, for connection, desire for love, desire for wealth, desire for expansion. All of that is you're accessing what is already complete. It's just you have to, register it in your divine mind. Yeah. So when people are like, oh, faith, I'm like, but do you know that it's complete already? It's just getting getting on the frequency.
You helping some people out
to align, with what it is. So that's so in our faith, that's what we're doing. We're just trying to come into alignment. It's woo woo, and we do a bunch of stuff, but ultimately what we're trying to do is get, tune into the frequency.
That's it. That's it.
That and on that frequency, then all those things, that's capable of happening to us, we can have it. It can come, under grace in a perfect way,
That's it. I love how you are framing the tradition of Ifa, particularly as a pathway of tuning, making sure that your particular tune is right where it's supposed to be for you to get what you need to get in this particular timeline. And what I
Yeah.
also love that you mentioned is that the ancestors are not a centerpiece for worship. They are a source of empowerment that supports us in expanding our health, our wellness. And one of the things you also mentioned is that our bodies hold the capacity for us to do the necessary tuning to align with our highest destiny. So talk to me about what you've learned as a mama of four who's raised two professional athletes. Another one is on his way. What has the body meant to you throughout the years, and how is that connected to spirituality? Because oftentimes people see the body and spirit differently, but they are, to me, one in the same in terms of how we need to care for them.
Ashe, yes. So the body for me, I grew up again in my community and any African dance and being Black or whatever, dance and music is going to be, it's like a big thing. So I grew up around a lot of drumming, African dance. My grandma exposed me to ballet, tap, jazz, everything. So movement has always been a huge thing. I used to perform, West African dance and that. So I was always very active, in that way. I was definitely one of those kids who lived in a household where you're not going to be running in and out and you need to go outside, and play. So movement and just exploring and doing all kinds of stuff. We were doing all kinds of stuff in the woods, going crabbing, like climbing trees, swinging on vines. We were just doing it like we were having fun. We had to gather wood and, all these things. And so being very physical was a thing. The community that we were in was like a constant fight against nature, right? Taking over, things growing and everything like that. So it was a lot of work. I grew up seeing a lot of people being very physical. Like the men in the community built the houses, the women were sewing and doing, we learned how to crochet and sew. I know how to do all kinds of stuff, Um, and so you being able to use my hands and all that, always super important. Dancing, always super important. So when I started, my family, like my daughter would be at the dance studio in her walker, I was dancing with the children in my belly. So again, they were they were made in movements, and they came out. And the partner, that I created family with was in that world. And so it was just like, it was just all around, very physical, emphasis on good health, eating well, eating for performance, especially from a plant-based perspective. So I began to learn all kinds of things. I studied exercise physiology when I was in college. So I always had this interest in the human body and performance and rehabilitation of the body, using the body. So through exercise and things like that. So that has always been there. And they just were born into that. I was very active, with them. I had the blessing, of being able to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was just very active, had the kids outside. We did all kinds of hiking and traveling, just, so many things to expand their world. And the boys took on to, what their father showed them, what he had done and what he had been so successful at. And he showed it to them in the way and cultivated in a way that they loved it, and so they all found their own unique space within that, even though I was like, you don't have to do that. You could do other things. So it's just like, everybody doesn't have to. So I put that out there. But anyway, they love it. And so then it was like, okay, well, if you love it and you put more effort into this than anything, then make it work. Make it that's what their father did. He made it his daily bread, so that's the pathway that they're using right now, using their physical body, their skill, and that, to earn a living, So it's been a super interesting journey, the psychological piece that goes along with it and that. So helping them through that, I was able to witness that living in that, all the manifestations of that. And so helping them to navigate all of those things and also supporting them. So when I went through my yoga journey, that was, of course, super useful because I would have the kids, doing yoga and they would see me teaching and everything like that, teaching them sun salutations and teaching them, the complete breath and different things like that, techniques that they could use, for themselves. So movement has just always been a central piece, even while raising my family, and that I still have my love for West African dance. I stopped performing like a while ago. But still, I was just super, into it. It's just one of my passions. And so again, if you have a mother that's a dancer and a dad that's running, y'all, they gonna be active. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like so many of us have been taught to override our bodies, whether that's to keep pushing, not to cry, don't stop. What is the cost?
They need us to override what the body is saying, because then you got to be numb, to follow things without questioning, without having a minute. If you had a minute to stop and think, you might make some different decisions.
Yes.
You're going to make different decisions from a rested state than you do from a state of anxiety. So if we're kept in high anxiety, people maintain these states of anxiety for years, and we see the repercussions. We see the fibroids. We see some of the things that, run in our bloodlines and that. And it's just a lot of the times we're passing on, on top of poor eating habits, but poor ways of managing anxiety. I think that, with, and this has been going on for generations, but industrialism and that taking women out of their homes and having them out in the world, a lot of the times, like, we have to find the balance. It's necessary to have that balance. I'm not saying all women need to be at home decorating and gardening, but at the same time, in our wanting to be so productive, that it ends up not being so productive because the body breaks down, because the cycles are off, for this go, production. And then everybody's just worn out. You can't think, you can't process. There's no way. So you just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I think that there is so much in the pause, and this productiveness is like, if you pause, it's like, who do you think you are, to step out of, like, what? You're going to rest? What do you mean? And that's why they're saying now it's like rest is revolutionary. God dang.
Yes, absolutely. And what I love about your work is that you created an opportunity for people to pause intentionally and to rest, which is a self-holiday retreat. Talk to me about how that concept emerged and how often do you do the retreat? Is there one coming up?
So the self-love holiday is something that evolved out of my own personal journey. I was going through a huge transformation in my life, in my family life. And I decided, and I was encouraged by one of my girlfriends at the time, that I needed to get away, that I needed to just take a moment and just gather my thoughts and everything like that, because it's like, all this stuff is going on and I'm in the midst of it, and a lot of the times, we have to get the tools so that we're in the midst of things, we can navigate. But sometimes it requires stepping away to gather the tools so that when you re-enter, then you have more to work with. So I was encouraged by one of my girlfriends to take a trip by myself, just like go check in somewhere or whatever.
It's nothing like a solo trip.
So I decided that I was going to go ahead and do it. And I was putting it off. And then she was like, just go ahead and book the dang thing. Like, do you need me to help you? What do you need? So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I looked up the flight, whatever. I booked the flight. I went online and I found like this female owned little Airbnb. So this particular solo trip, I went to Jamaica, and I went to Portland, and it was I went to this Airbnb. It was called like Villa Roster or something like that. But anyway, this woman owned it. The sister owned it, and I was like, "Bam! I'm gonna go stay there." It was super remote. It was like very rustic, like no hot water, rustic, like cabin. I'm out of sight. Like, yeah, I'm going there, you know. So I arrived, you know, I gathered up, made the announcement and everything, went on the trip, and I had intended that I was going on that trip to cry and journal and cry and journal and cry and rock myself in the hammock.
Yeah.
So when I arrived there, it just turned out to be something totally different. No one could believe. So I get picked up at at the airport. She sent a car for me, and I come out. I have all my stuff, and we're just like waiting. I'm like, "What's up?" And they're like, "Oh, is somebody else with you?" I'm like, "No, it's just me." Like, what are you talking about? Like, they couldn't believe. So I'm like, "No, it's just me." When I got there, she's like, "Are you by yourself?" So I'm like, "Yeah." She'd see me in the morning on the property, reading my book, journaling, whatever. And then one day she's like, I was there for like a full day, and then she came and approached me, and she's like, "Are you by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." And she was like, I rarely see women come here alone. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Your place just looked perfect, for that." And so we just started talking. She took me under her wing, honey. Every day after that first day, she had me going places. She's like, "Oh, tomorrow night you have to come with me. They have a fish fry and then town, this and that.
Wow.
5 o'clock, be ready. We're going to the fish fry." I'm like, "Okay, we're going to the fish fry."
Yes.
I went to the fish fry with her. It was amazing. It was literally like the fishermen literally had fresh fish. Like it was the bomb. And I was like, "Oh my God, like this is not what I expected." I had a great time. I'm laughing. I'm not crying, no journaling, none of these. I'm like, this can't be right. Like, this is not the vibe I thought. And it just kept unfolding like that. Every day was like this new adventure. She just took me under her wing, and we just talked about so much. And she shared with me that what brought her there was that her partner had tried to poison her. Her partner was poisoning her. And she had like these recurring health issues. And anyway, lo and behold, that was what was at the root. So we just bonded. She took me to, she had some friends that lived up at the top of this mountain in this huge, beautiful home. She's like, "We're going to stay." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't know these people. Like, I can't stay." She's like, "Look, you can have your own room, whatever you need." I'm like, she's like, "So you're going to come?" And I was like, "Oh my God."
Wow.
And it just ended up being such a blessing. Like, it was just, and I said, "You know what? I came here, because I thought that the love that I needed was to cry and to journal. But lo and behold, I just needed to be open to what Spirit had for me." And I learned so much from her because, she got herself out of a crazy situation and had just totally transformed her life, down there in Jamaica with her Airbnb. And I was so inspired. And I got to immerse myself in nature, which was really the big thing, because really, for me, connection with God really is in nature. And so that was a big piece, going to the beach and the river. And I was able to go to where the river and the sea meet. So it's just like all these really amazing spots that I was able to go and just connect and just be, in the energy of that. And so that was really what started the self-love holiday, because it was a trip that I took for myself. I didn't cry till I got back home. Okay. And I was like,
I love it. When is the next self-love holiday retreat happening?
So the next self-love holiday I have planned for this year is in October. It's taking place in Miami, Florida. It's the first weekend in October. This is a mini retreat experience because since then I took the retreat to Costa Rica. That was where I had the first one. And that was an amazing immersion in the jungle. And now that I live in South Florida, I had a retreat 2 years ago down in South Florida. I thought it was a great place because I'm not taking people out of town. It's in my backyard, and all of the things are there: the beach, the weather, the food, all that is there. So that's the self-love holiday retreat experience.
I love it. And people can find out more, I imagine, on your website. Can you tell them
Yeah.
what your website is?
Yes, it's vibrantlytransformed.com. So
Mm.
www.vibrantlytransformed.com.
Beautiful. Now, there is a new offering that
Yeah.
you have. We talked a little bit about it, but I was like, people need to know that this is being offered. It is the
Yes.
astrology wealth indicator readings. Now, before Oyabunmi answer this, I just got to put a plug in for my good sister and friend. She is an amazing medium. An amazing diviner. So if you need a spiritual reading, a spiritual tune-up, please go see her at www.vibrantlytransform.com. Okay, Oyabunmi, tell us about astrology wealth indicator readings. What is that, and how did you come up with this?
Okay, so the astrology wealth indicator reading is my newest offering, and I came up with this because, as I've shared, I'm a priestess, and in our community we have classes and such for the priest. And one of the things that our elder, Yelode Yeyefini, suggested and told us was that each of us should find, there's so many aspects and so many things, in the practice, and just really find something that we resonate with. And so I was like, I feel like now it's like so in to be in traditional African spirituality. It's just everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So I'm like, okay, like I gotta distinguish myself from the pack. So what can I do? And again, when I was younger, we learned so much about astrology, in my community. We learned about the planets. We learned about, the names of the planets, the energy of the planets. I learned how to do, using math and birth dates and the books that we had, how to do birth charts and everything like that. I was doing all that stuff when I was like 10, 11 years old. And so, and it's just always been something that I've been, I'm always like, astrology, like I really love astrology, I'm super interested in that. And just because I understand the energy of the planets and things like that. So the wealth indicator reading is really me touching back to my astrology roots. And what it's doing is looking at the birth chart. So there are indicators in the birth chart towards what it is that you're naturally inclined towards, the type of work, and even in what you may be doing. So I'm dealing with this from where you are, what it is that you're doing, and then looking at your birth chart to say, these are the houses where your wealth sits. This is how you can access it. If it's in this house, you can access it over here. If it's in this house, then you get to it by being creative in this way. If it's here, this is the wealth of a legacy. You're meant to create things that last a long time, things like that. So it has evolved, and it's something that I was just kind of doing for myself and like doing for other people, just to like see if it resonated and if I could help them. And I'm like, okay, if I can help somebody actually make some money, then I'm gonna offer this. So so that happened, and then I was like, all right, so I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna invite a couple of people. And then I did, and they loved it, and I was just like, okay, so this is a thing. Like, again, I was just building up my courage. So the wealth indicator reading is my new offering, and it's really based off of astrology. It's looking at your birth chart and where wealth naturally lies for you. Beyond the wealth indicator reading, I have the blueprint activation. So once we figure out where the wealth is in your birth chart, then together with what you're doing and the ideas that you have, then I help you to embody and also tap into the shadows so that you know what needs to be released in order for you to have the identity of the person that can have what's in your birth chart. So yeah.
Yes.
And these are things that, this is the type of stuff I like to do for myself. And so now all the things that I do and all the things that I'm offering is just all things that I've done and explored for my own self, because I feel like where I am now is that I want to just share my wisdom. I want to share the things that I've learned. I want to share what has sustained me. I feel like I've been so entrenched in family life for a long time, and so now, I'm starting to share more. I have more space in my life to open up in a different way that I wasn't able to before, because I was so committed and on my mom life. So so I'm excited for this. I'm excited for the people that I work with to have the opportunity, because people come for readings, and I do the spiritual readings in my traditional pathway, which helps to ascertain what's the spiritual energy that's surrounding you or a situation. It could be for business, for relationships, it could be for relocation, or just general personal reading. A lot of the times, those readings come with homework, right? Spiritual homework. And so, and everybody is at different places. And so one is not obligated to do, the recommended rituals. However, sometimes they're just inquisitive. So I could give them a reading and they're like, oh, well, I'm not really into it like that. I don't want to do all that. So I'm like, okay, I could still help you, let's go from your astrology if you're not ready to deal with addressing spirit in this way. So
absolutely,
that way I got something, for everybody. And even the people that's into Orisha and that could find value, and vice versa. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing with me those offerings. And I know you gave me your email account earlier. So if you all want to hit up Oyabunmi directly, you can reach her at oyabunmid@gmail.com.
It's just D, Kendra, no E.
Oh, D.
D. Yes,
Gotcha.
just the letter D.
Gotcha.
Yes, thank you.
Gotcha.
So yeah, send
Absolutely.
me an email if anything has been interesting. You can go to my website. You can reach me through there, or you can send me an email at Oyabunmi D, and we can move from there. I'm super, very much into initiating capacity in the body. For more, for the next level, the next iteration. Again, just being able to hold more blessings, hold more success, hold more ire. The Orisha, the ancestors, they want us to be happy. They want us to be healthy. The biggest ire is longevity. Your health is, because if you have wealth and all of these different things, but then you don't have the well-being, then
Can't sustain it or hold
is it your ire? Yeah. So I let's just focus on that. You got to have the capacity in your body to be that person that you want to be that biggest elevation. The next up level of yourself requires more capacity to hold that identity, and I think that's a big thing, especially in the spiritual world. And I'm sure in all levels, people that want to talk religion, talk spirituality, you got to have the capacity to hear what other people are saying. Because if not, then you're going to shut down. Oh no, I'm rejecting that. It's like, no, you don't even have the capacity to hear what they're saying. It doesn't mean that what you believe is wrong or that they're right, but it's just like, and in that way, people use religion, and then it turns negative, and I don't like that. Like, we're not tolerant. I thought that we can at least be tolerant of one another. Like, holy crap, we can't even be tolerant. Ridiculous. Yeah. So in that way, it becomes divisive. And then they wonder why nobody wants to be religious no more. Everybody's like, oh, I'm spiritual, because they don't want, it's divisive. Like, let's cut it out.
And it doesn't have to be. Yeah. So this is my last question as we close out, because I know you are enjoying your time where you are. The name of this podcast is KYNDversation. It stands for Knowing Yourself in Need of Devotion. Not only is it the first four letters of my actual name, Kendra, but it is also just what I continue to learn in my own becoming, that my devotion, not only to the God of my understanding, but to myself, matters. So when you hear the word devotion in this season of your life, Oyabunmi, what does it mean to you?
That's so funny. I have a version of that story that we'll have to talk about off camera. Devotion is sacred. Devotion to me, I only want to deal with the caliber of people who are willing to devote themselves, to something bigger. I only really want to have space for devotees because I'm a devotee, and it takes a lot. I cut out a lot, to be a devotee. I want people with that same level of focus and understanding and knowing that it is sacred. It's so sacred to devote oneself to the Most High, to devote oneself to being the best that you could be, to devote oneself to improving, and to devote oneself to another, in the name of love, in the name of growth, expansion. Like, yeah. I'm so happy that, you chose that word. I always say, even in, as I see myself becoming more sacred in that, then I know that a lot of people that are attracted, once you tap into that energy, they're coming in because they want to be a devotee of some sort, So we just have to give temple duties, okay, Let's you be responsible for making sure that we always have fresh water, and then you're gonna make sure that it's always clean, but we're collectively devoted, to the expansion of our consciousness. Those are the types of people I like. Like, I want to be with them. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, beautiful, beautiful answer. Thank you so much for joining me today, Oyabunmi, to be in KYNDversation. For those of you that are listening and watching, remember your life is sacred, your voice matters, and your becoming is holy. Subscribe to KYNDversations on YouTube and love, like, share this KYNDversation with someone who needs it. For spiritual companioning or therapeutic support, you can always reach me at KYNDconsulting@gmail.com. Until next time, stay devoted to the divine within you. Peace and abundant blessings.
Ashe. Thank you.